Good morning. Welcome to Make in India series. IPQC welcomes you to this series on Make in India. Today's discussion is basically we'll be focusing more on, we'll start with the agriculture related industries and see how we can use that entire ecosystem basically to encourage Make in India. Agriculture is like almost majority of if you see the traditional industries, actually agriculture is a very old industry, and not industry, it is more of like tradition, and more than 60% of Indian population is engaged in agriculture, and there is related industries like agriculture based industries are many. Entire food supply chain comes from this industry, and what we try to do is basically we try to discuss the ecosystem about agriculture and agriculture related industries. So if you see the India's areas, basically economic activities, agriculture contributes almost more than 15% to GDP. Even though it's a 60% population engaged in that, there is a huge scope to improve the productivity in agriculture related economic activity. There are many reasons for this. Number one reason is fragmented land holding. You can't do scalability is a very opportunity is very less, and land holding, 80% of the farmers, their average size of land holding is less than 1 hectare. So that shows that scope for improvement. So not like a West or like other countries in the world, the land holding for farmer is is entirely different. Big land holding in some of the countries, and that makes them makes that activity economically viable. Here, because of land holding is so small, whatever you invest in automation or incur in the cost in mechanization is a lot of burden to the farmer. So if you see that one is the scalability, second one is infrastructure, lack of rural infrastructure. See, there is not like a lot of infrastructure, agriculture support related infrastructure is required. Otherwise, what happens? There will be inefficiency in the entire value chain. So, see, one is the storage, like warehousing, in remote places. It's a very important. Otherwise, the farmers are forced to sell that in a market. Basically, in a season, the prices basically manipulated by the agents, and in APMC mandis and all flooded with the produce during the season. So there are many middlemen. You take advantage of this excess supply in a season, so try to reduce the price. So that is the second reason, basically, like economically, even though uh, uh, they produce something useful product, but they try to manipulate, and the economic value of that entire activity is basically manipulated. So there is lack of infrastructure is the one reason. They are forced to sell because they can't store, they can't add value because we don't have a at growing area field level, we don't have a value addition facilities. You can take any product, any agri commodity. Absolutely, there is highly skewed. This entire value chain, supply chain, entirely skewed and moved out from the growing area to some specific commercial centers. They store, they basically have a godowns there, and they have a processing centers, packing centers, distribution centers. Is not very near to the growing areas. So the entire economic activity is shifted towards something like some consumption points. So the value addition is very less at growing field level. So there is absolutely no value addition, and there is a very less scope to store, process, store, and basically transport in to the markets. There is absolutely no like infrastructure. This is the number two reason for the entire problem in agriculture. Number two reason for the price realization. The main thing, it directly impact the price realization of the farmers in the markets. So third is a very important thing is a skill set. The mindset and the skill set. Even though farmer is traditionally is an entrepreneur, but in updation, basically the skills required to run an enterprise or a business or agri enterprise absolutely missing because lack of support system from the government. So this is mostly 90%, 90%, 99% is this entire agriculture activities supported through government departments. Government is not basically they do the training and they try to build the skills, required skills in some areas, but their reachability is very limited. So 60% of the population actually directly connected to agriculture. There are many issues what I earlier mentioned. So reaching out and training them and preparing them to make better entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs is really challenging. So one is the technology side, one is the mindset, the traditional mindset. So there is still age-old practices they practice in agriculture, and may not be viable in current given conditions. So technology adoption is very poor, and they are not equipped to use those things. There is like at least 5 to 10% farmers, they show the readiness to use those tools, but majority still not in the in that like they can't use directly these sophisticated tools like AI, ML tools, or online platforms. And there is so much is happening in even automation related, mechanization related, and there is a cost of this technology, very costly for them, especially tractor equipment manufacturers. There is a lot of scope to reduce the cost of this mechanization, but traditional Indian market, Indian consumer, they never demanded, so because of that, OEMs, their innovation is very, very, limited in agriculture. If we see some of the countries like China, Korea, Japanese, Japan, and even other countries like Western countries. The sophistication is highly sophisticated agriculture, and automation, mechanization is there is a continuous innovation happens in a in agriculture area at field level. So the reason may be government controlled thing. There is no private participation, and economic viability is not there because of there are many factors, mindset and other things. There is a very good opportunity basically to get into these areas, and the very important thing is fourth reason is basically the shortage, labor shortage. Labor shortage in a big way is affecting the agriculture. There is a very good scope for automation and the mechanization, and coming up with innovative solutions to solve the labor issues, and at field level. So getting a labor is really very difficult basically in active in a way wherever agriculture activity is in a full swing. So there is a lot of demand for agriculture labor, and because of that, viability of this entire activity is a question mark. One. Second one is shortage and delay the entire activity. So that also there is an cost incurred because of delay. So there are many things. The price goes up, the economic viability is a question mark, and the product quality also suffers. There are many outcomes from this entire thing, shortage of labor. And other things are like funding, the working capital is the main important issue in agriculture, and every day farmer need to search for the funding. If he is not having a readily planned funding, if he is not planned for the thing, there definitely is going to face a lot of problem. And there is private lending, there is banks are there. Banks are not very effective in agriculture lending because their own process, it takes a lot of time. Agriculture is directly linked to the season, and if you delay the thing, it's entire, there is no point in lending to the that activity. So banks, majority banks basically they fail because they are unable to understand what is when they need, what they need, how they need. Risk related to agriculture they are unable to assess, and they still they see something like agriculture is even though government says is a top priority, but for bankers it's the last priority if you're given different options. So that makes very basically private lenders, they will lend money to the farmers, and their interest rates are very high. All those activities basically makes agriculture it's not economically not viable. So in nutshell, these are the issues, 5 points whatever I mentioned. These are the issues makes Indian agriculture not economically not viable activity. So government studied all this thing. There is a continuous effort to bring the reforms in agriculture sector. Government initiated many things. One is value addition. Value addition, aggregation, mechanization, IT adoption, digitization. There are these are the things government taken up in a large scale, and there are many the startups in this space, basically to address these issues of 5 issues whatever I mentioned. So So once they start addressing, there is a concept called farmers producing organizations, FPOs. So government planning 10,000 FPOs across the country, basically scattered across the different regions, and catering to specific local activity. You see, it's like running a cooperative, small cooperative, with all the resources. So it runs like a company, at the same time a cooperative, and there are many farmers from that area becomes members in that. So collectively you can build the scale and mobilize the resources, and negotiate with the input suppliers, and negotiate with the output, basically the buyers, and better price you can get. And because of economy of scale, you can reduce the cost of overhead costs. And funding also, the banks and other NBFCs, they can see individually as a separate project they can lend, because it is economically viable, because there is an entity, FPO entity gives the guarantee. And there is like they try to create assets like a warehousing, processing centers, storing, packing, transportation. This entire agriculture related infrastructure they try to create through FPOs. There is a huge opportunity, and there is a lot of scope to help the community, basically groom them in various areas, skill, bridging the skill gap also happening through FPOs. FPOs recently started this concept, but it takes time to get that maturity level. And there are many FPOs failed because of lack of execution skills. And there is plenty of opportunities to organize this, bring the agriculture into organized sector through this route. And it is much better than what they did through cooperatives. Agriculture cooperatives are there across the country, but still it is not effective. FPO is a more of refined one, and there is a specific to a crop, specific to a region, specific to a product, highly customized solution they try to design through these platforms. So there definitely there is huge opportunity in this area. And food processing is actually a big thing is going to happen in through these FPOs. Farmers producing organizations, when they focus on a specific product, group of farmers comes to FPO and becomes members, and they know what end customer needs. So your input, quality of your input, so better to set up value addition center there near FPO. So that FPO, so like that food clusters is going to come up in a big way. And there is a huge opportunity for in a food processing industry, because India, there is a lot of things, value addition is required in food processing. Very few companies actually doing food processing at a global scale in India. There is still dominated by more of traditional companies, and they are not in a very high end product innovation also, lack of product innovation also one of the reason. And infrastructure, definitely there is infrastructure is required at at field level. And definitely food clusters specific to a region, specific to that product, definitely there is going to improve entire supply chain efficiency in the in a value chain, agriculture value chain. So, these some initiatives actually clearly is visible. The impact is made, but still long way to go. There are plenty of opportunities to invest in these sectors. And if you are a investor, if you are exploring opportunities in this sector, so there is plenty of opportunities. Warehousing related, the solar energy is the one. Agriculture is going to play a big role. Wind and solar, renewable energy related things. Even hydrogen, hydrogen plants, setting up hydrogen plants using this power, like low cost power like a solar or wind. You can use that energy to produce hydrogen. So it is a win-win situation. Agriculture is going to benefit in a big way in the coming years. There is a huge opportunity for investments in this sector, and there is a lot of scope. Value addition scope is very high, and if you choose the right product, right strategy, right skill sets, right management, you can make that uh, business viable and highly viable. You can even, there is scope to even export those things across the world. There are many niche products basically grown in India and exported. Absolutely, there is niche products which have a potential to grow 1,000 times. That exponentially can grow in the export markets. There is a huge opportunity. So uh, definitely IPQC is going to help entrepreneurs and in these areas, and we do the we support entrepreneurs in a business planning, project plan preparation, viability, economic viability, feasibility reports. We try to help the entrepreneurs in these various areas. So with this, we will stop today's session basically. Thank you for your time, and we will focus on related areas, Make in India initiatives in other sectors tomorrow. Thank you.